Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Nightmare. It's a Norwegian film, so just be warned, subtitles. It's a Shudder exclusive, and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, September 29th. And I'll tell you off the top here, I think this one was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. Didn't really have any expectations going into it, which is usually the case with all of these Shudder exclusive and originals that I get for the most part, and which is honestly the best way to go in. Like, have a blank slate. But I was pretty impressed with this in a lot of ways. There are a few things that I didn't love about it, and you'll hear that in this no spoiler review, but I do recommend checking it out for sure. This one's written and directed by Kjersti, spelled with a J, Kjersti Helen Rasmussen, who also wrote Villmark 2 and The Tunnel. And like I said, this is a Norwegian film, so subtitles. One of the things for me, I'm not a fast reader, so there are certain languages that are tougher for me subtitle-wise, because certain languages kind of move faster, so the subtitles aren't on the screen as long. So, I don't know, like a language like Japanese, it's a lot easier for me with subtitles versus something like Norwegian, a little bit faster. So there may have been some stuff, I'm sure there was some stuff I kind of missed a little bit because I am not a fast reader, but, yeah, just, my own little rant. It's not really a rant, but a little insight into me. And I don't know if any of you identify with having the same issue, but anyway, synopsis of this one. It's about a couple who end up moving into this, apartment where someone had died before. And weird things start to happen with her. Her name is Mona, and it ends up impacting their relationship, and it's horror. So I don't want to say too much. I just want to say that as the setup. Do really like the characters. I like how they're fleshed out and everything. So I feel like knowing that, like knowing the premise and knowing that the characters are rich characters, not wealthy rich, but, rich as in how they're written and how they're acted, should give people a good idea if this is something they kind of want to get into or not. So moving on, there's opening text to the movie, and it lays out a large aspect of the film in a very overt manner. It kind of tells you a concept that they're going to give you up front and be like, okay, this will be a key concept in the movie. So gives it a definition, basically, so you kind of have a little bit of basis of knowledge for what you're going to be thinking about and looking at. I'm not really sure they needed to do that personally, but it also didn't detract from the movie too much either. You do get a good sense of who the main characters are and how their relationship is early on. Like I said, these characters are very well written, they're very well fleshed out, they're very well acted, which all rolls together to make the story feel that much more realistic, to make the characters seem that much more realistic, but also interesting. When you have like a one-dimensional character, they're obviously not that interesting. You're not going to be as invested in the film. And I think where a lot of this movie shines is how well developed these characters are, and that really pulls you into kind of caring about what's actually going on screen. So really love that aspect of it. And they set it up quickly. Like, very early on, you get a sense of who these people are, what their relationship's like, which is not easy to do, in my opinion. It is slow, but it has good atmosphere, and the score actually adds a lot to the really nice atmosphere. It's got this kind of like dark, brooding, slightly creepy atmosphere. Not overtly creepy, not too creepy, but it's just like this kind of like tickle in the back of your mind of like, this is a little bit creepy, but it's not, there's nothing necessarily like scary happening, or you're not seeing anything necessarily creepy. And I think that's what a lot of the score ends up adding to it. It's very well done composition wise, and it matches up very well with what's going on in the film. So atmosphere is one of the best things about this movie too. In addition to the characters, I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. And it helps you just stay immersed in this world that they basically created within this. So I think all those aspects work really, really well. About 20 minutes in is when the intrigue really does pick up. So they don't wait super long. A lot of the times I'll be watching horror movies, especially recently, where it's like the earliest that you get a step up in intrigue is like a half hour in, and a lot of those even further after that. So the fact that they start things getting really interesting at about 20 minutes makes me feel like this moves kind of quickly at that point, even though I did say, like, overall it has this kind of like we're taking our time kind of slow feel to it. Oh, and actually going back, something else I did want to say about the aesthetics of it and that atmosphere. The color palette that was chosen for this is quite nice in my opinion, because it keeps things dark, but it doesn't do that kind of like leech color palette thing that looks kind of artificial like a lot of horror movies have started doing and really annoys me. So I think they did a good job of keeping things looking drab, but not doing that very cliche leech color palette look. So I thought that was good too. The cinematography has a very steady and smooth nature to it, which I am a huge fan of. Mario Bava is my favorite director. The camera work in his films typically was very smooth with a lot of nice motion to it. So I am predisposed to really liking that type of style. And I'm not going to say this is shot like a Bava film, but there are some movements and some idea of how to approach it that kind of remind me a little bit of what I like from Bava films. I'm not trying to make that comparison. It's just, this is how my brain works. Is basically what I'm trying to tell you. I don't think that other people would necessarily look at it and think things that way. It's just, that's how my brain works. But I make a lot of weird kind of connections to things in my daily life. But anyway, it looks really good. Really love the way it was shot. Again, very well acted. Not just the two main characters. Although Mona is like the main character, the man she is with is a secondary character, basically supporting actor in essence. But he has a decent role in it, though. There are some pretty creepy images, and some that are kind of unsettling, actually. A big fan of when they'll kind of like a little bit out of context kind of throw up some creepy images or some scary images, and they do that a few times in this, and they look good. And obviously when those moments happen, the composition of what you're seeing is the big thing that matters. And can it give you some sort of feeling? Like, can it elicit some sort of internal response from you? And I do think that they've done a good job with a bunch of them in this movie, so thumbs up on that. There's the concept of some very interesting lore that ends up being brought up in this. And obviously I'm not going to expound upon that because I don't want you to know about it, but it's lore that I didn't know about, but once it's presented, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it just makes sense. You know, like, I had never thought about that deeply, but it makes a whole lot of sense that, like, this would be a lore out there. And for that reason, it's kind of unique that it's being used in this film. Maybe not within the context of Norwegian film, but I haven't seen a lot of Norwegian film. I'm just saying in the context of what film I have consumed in my daily life, and probably would be pretty unique for what most people in the United States have consumed. Or actually anyone outside of Norway, probably. But, well, that might be lore that's also in other Scandinavian countries, and maybe even part of Europe as well, but anyway, they do a good job of gradually building a feeling of pressure, which mirrors what the main character is experiencing. That's where all these technical aspects of filmmaking are coming together and making you internally feel the pressure that this main character is feeling as it slowly builds up within the film. And that's obviously done through the context of, you know, the story that's happening in the scenes that keep going and how things escalate, the score composition, the acting style, the way the characters are developing, all that great stuff. So I think they do a really good job with that. There's a bit of a leap in logic that the movie takes toward the end. It has to do with something a character does at a key moment. I'm trying to be vague, but being somewhat specific to people who have already seen it. There is like a big key thing much later in the film where it really did take me out of it, because I'm just like, does this make sense? Would this be able to happen right now? I'm not so sure this is a thing that can happen, because it's something that like kind of comes up out of nowhere, and then you're just like, we did not lay the groundwork for this to be happening right now. So it was, I don't know. I might be in the minority on this one, not liking that aspect of it, but I would love to hear from other people. You can go ahead and put it in the comments, however you feel about the movie. Would love to talk to others about it who have seen it. The ending I thought was solid, but also made me want there to be a little bit more to it. I wanted more to a resolution of the movie. There's some stuff that's just kind of left a little bit unanswered that I really wish would have been answered. I understand the intent of it and why they end it the way they do, but I feel like it could have been better and it could have had more impact if they went further. I'll just put it like that. So, be interested to see what other people think there. This deals with specific familial fears that have been used a lot more in horror in the past few years. So when you're watching this, you'll kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of thematically hitting like this film and like this film that I've seen recently. Because I was just kind of doing that mentally. And actually, the next thing I want to say, if you want to stop right here, because I'm going to make a comparison and tell you two movies that this feels like mashed together. So if you don't want movie comparisons, stop this right now, because I guess I know for some people that can feel a bit spoilery because you kind of know like the feeling to expect. So go ahead and stop now. This movie actually feels like a mixture of two films that have come out recently. One being Watcher, which was on Shudder. Was it last year? I think it may have even been last year, 2022, and Come True, which I don't remember if that one was 2022 or 2021, but I think both of those movies are currently on Shudder when this review's coming out. So it would be interesting if you watch Nightmare and then you watch Come True and you watch Watcher and see if you think I'm correct in that Nightmare is a mixture of Come True and Watcher. Or actually, it might be better to watch those two first and then watch Nightmare, actually. That would probably make more sense. But anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a pretty good 3.5 star rating. I was between 3 and 3.5, but I think there's enough like really good stuff that was done with this film to bump it up to the 3.5. So pleasantly surprised with this one. This is where I'd love to hear from you. If you've seen the film, give me your thoughts and, give me a sentence or two as to why you did or did not like it, or, middling on it. But would really appreciate that. Also, what I would really appreciate is if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That is literally the best way to repay me for putting out free content. I do appreciate that so much. Also hit the notification bell button because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing at least 3 a week at this point. And then you can also do the likes if you want to encourage me to do better. I don't know. Or just keep doing what I'm doing. But regardless, thanks so much for checking this out. And until next time, keep it brutal.